Hi, Diane. Hi, Violet. Thank you for being here
Hey,
today.
I
I'm so glad you're here. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I've invited my colleague Diane Costers to here and her granddaughter Violet to talk about Seymour and how he's learning about stopping and what the signals are for learning to do that. Diane is a retired neuropsychologist. Do you want to tell a little bit, Diane, about the kind of work and why you think I might have invited you to do this today? This is what we,
well,
have seen with our kids.
I've worked with a lot of kids over the years that have social emotional issues and learning issues. Many times when children have learning issues, their neurology is a little different. And I think that stopping and thinking before you act is hard for all of us.
Mhm,
But for some people, it's even harder to do,
mhm.
and they need a little help.
Yeah, yeah. So stories can help because kids usually want to be like the characters in the story.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and I know your grandma has told me many times, Violet, and I've seen from the little bit of interactions you and I have had together over the years that you know a lot about stopping and have had experiences with friends or a brother who maybe has a hard time or times when you've had a hard time stopping. Do you want to share anything about that?
Um, Sometimes I help my brother when he doesn't think before doing something, and it's helpful to help.
That's so great. You're really modeling for him, just like Seymour's sister in the story. That's a great example, Violet. So for those who maybe didn't look already at the video that I did on the story and the messages that I highlighted in the story, I will just share my screen and briefly go through the story so that the things that we talk about today make a little more sense. Share my screen. So this is mindful Seymour pauses, watching for stop signals. So he's at school and he's excited about being at school, and the bell rings and he's learning because he's new to school and what that is like. And so he runs to get in line and he sees this beautiful bird with these beautiful trailing tail feathers. And he really, really is curious about them and really wants to learn about them. So he touches them and she gives him some stop signals, which he does not pay attention to. And it ends up that when he actually starts touching the feathers and accidentally pulls them, this is the reaction that happens. And so he wasn't expecting that. She wasn't expecting that. And everyone is kind of confused about what to do. So his sister says, well, hey, I've got these great goggles that are going to tell you what you can do in this situation. Let's look again, because she actually gave you quite a few signals that you just missed. And so she goes through with him the things that he missed. And then she says, would you like to know what other kids do when they're waiting in line instead of touching others' bodies? And he says, sure, of course, I don't mean to hurt the bird. It was an accident, but I don't really know what else to do waiting in line. It can seem really hard to wait. So the birds are modeling. We'll wait just a little longer. They're getting impatient waiting for the teacher. These birds in the middle are talking about who's taller, and the other birds are asking permission to hug each other. And so that's giving him an idea of what to do. And so when he stops and thinks, like you were saying, Diane, then he can get permission from the bird to touch. And he learns that it's fine, just ask permission. Also be prepared because they might not agree to it, but that's why you ask. And then you wait to see what the answer is. And so he's thinking, well, that's great. Everyone likes that. And so his sister offers a badge that she wears, and it says what pause. What's my plan? Think of that. Yes, I can. And that's a picture of him remembering to do that. And so when he's back in the classroom, his teacher's asking about it, and he's retelling the story because that helps sort of make it stick in the brain a little bit more if you can retell what you learned and put it all in an organized way in your brain to process. And then everyone's regulated in the classroom, and the teacher can say, okay, let's get started. I see that it's time to start our first art project. So that's the main idea of the story. But I wanted to show some of the activities that I've created to reinforce those messages. But Violet, I know you told me you had noticed some of the messages in the story. So would you like to share some of those, and I can go back to the page that you're thinking about?
Sure. This story said, or the message was, it's important to think before saying or doing.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's really cool. And yeah.
That's great. Did you notice anything else in the story that you wanted to share, or things that you've noticed at school? Would you?
Sometimes people in my school, they don't ask before doing something, and sometimes it can hurt the other person's feelings.
Mhm.
And I think this book just really models what to do.
Great. I'm glad to hear that because it is important. And usually words are the way to work out any kinds of difficulties that kids are having so that they don't get so frustrated, because in the story, Seymour actually uh, gets scared by the bird's reaction, and then he kicks her, and now they're both upset, because that is what happens sometimes when unexpected things happen. But when we use words, that's what people are expecting, so that they understand what it is you want and need, and then you can answer back with words, and then these kinds of things aren't as likely to happen because of communication, and with words, not with their bodies. So here is some of the little activities I've created for kids to do, but also for tips for grown-ups. So some of these are very experiential tools. The idea behind it is to try to help kids remember that they did activities like this. It's a carry the story one step further. Some of the questions are about, or some of the activities are about personalizing it. What about you? How can you remember this? And some of them are just fun activities, but it's just keeping Seymour front of mind top of mind for kids, so that they're thinking about Seymour and doing what Seymour's doing in the story, because as Violet, you're saying, it can be helpful. So this first one is a picture of Seymour tucking his feet. I guess I should say his wings, and or tucking his feet into his wings, sorry, until he knew it was okay to touch his friends. Because what I see lots of times as kids, I might prompt a child in my social skills groups, for example, to say, let's ask if it's okay to share that toy. And they might say what I prompted them to say, but they don't wait. And so the idea is you have to also wait, but that's hard because you want to just take it. You said the words, but you want it now, and because it's really hard. And so it's helping kids remember, what will you do with your hands, because that's hard. And that's why in the story there were the examples of the other little birds. What will they do while they're waiting? Because waiting is a hard thing. And it was actually the first Seymour book that I wrote, because waiting is really, really hard for kids. Diane, can you share a little bit more about that from a neuropsychologist perspective about waiting? So,
Oh, wow. I was so busy thinking when you were talking that it's like a coach, a pickleball coach told me last week that it's so easy to just react instead of to play pickleball with intention.
mm-hmm,
And one of the things she suggested is that you think the word pause before you hit the ball. And so she used words just like you were talking about. So I think, again, I think it's true for all of us, but some people need a little bit more coaching than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
ongoing coaching.
And ongoing. That's right. Because it changes as kids grow and mature, and the rules change and the expectations change. And so that's why they still need the coaching. And your skills with pickleball change. So you still need coaching about, don't forget, remember to pause. It's so hard for us because
it's happening so quickly that you just react. But one of the things that Violet said after we read your book is that she was impressed, or one of the messages she heard was that Seymour wasn't alone with this. His sister was acting like a team with him and trying to help him to think through a plan or possibilities of what would help him to do things differently. So the sister was being a coach, really.
A coach and working together, a partner. He's not alone in learning this. And that's what we as adults do, is help kids in that same way. That's a great thought that you shared, Violet. And then this is a picture of a badge that kids could make at home. And being an occupational therapist, I'm always looking for ways to bring in fine motor activities. So that's why I created this like this. But it's also something that I do give kids when they come for their individual sessions with me. And we talk about planning what to do, and planning just like, okay, I know what to do. One of the things that parents tell me a lot is if they preview the expectations with a child before they go into the store, before they go to a party or whatever the situation is, their child can remember it so well because they know what is happening first, next, and how they'll know when it's time to leave. Same idea, have a plan when you're going to do something. How is it going to go well for you so that you can be like Seymour? So it is what you guys have been saying all along. Think before you do something, think about a plan and have it in mind before you do an activity. But like you said, Diane, it can be so fast-paced and competition from other kids. They want to be first. They want that toy. They want the chase character from the Paw Patrol toys, those kinds of things, hot competition for some things. And it's just hard to wait. So this is a way that I thought of to help kids like specifically notice what the signals are. So most of the time, what I notice with kids in my social skills groups is that they actually they have heard someone say stop, but they're so intent on what they're doing and they just don't hear it. And so learning to pay attention and is not an easy thing to do when you have your mind on something that you want to do or something you want to have. And so, but it's raising awareness so that kids can get better at self-monitoring. But these are some things that kids do say to each other. And some of them are things that are stop signals, like the word stop, give me space, something like that. I don't like that, hey, or kids often say it like, hey, and moving away. If you're in someone's space, they might move away. Somebody might push your hand away if you're trying to take something without asking first and waiting, or their eyes might get sort of like kids generally know how to draw those kind of pictures with the eyebrows that show they don't like something. Their face might turn red, and that's what happened to the white bird in the story. Sometimes kids will clench their hands that say, I'm trying to control myself. It's really hard. But then there's other things, smiling. Well, that's a different kind of signal. That means, yeah, sure, I'll play. Or talking about games or talking about how tall are you? Oh, I'm almost as tall as you. Those kinds of things, because like to compare their heights. And also, what does a relaxed body look like? It's sort of like if their kids are playing on the floor, for example, they might be just stretched out a little bit. And like, this is fun. There's nothing to, I'm not concerned about things. I'm expecting this just be fun. So it's just a way to talk about it. These activities that I've included are things that I think help adults start conversations with kids to talk about. If you see something on TV or in a book, how do you know that that's a stop signal? So this is just trying to help parents know what kinds of, like, have a starting place themselves for starting a conversation with a child.
I think that children vary in terms of from a very, very young age. They vary in terms of their ability to attend to other children or other people.
Mm-hmm.
And they also vary in their ability to read the social cues, to look for the things that you're talking about, or to listen to the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, and to take the pause.
Yeah, and to take the pause.
Because it is there. They do, at least most of the kids I work with, they do know, but it's moving fast.
Right, exactly. It's moving so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this one I just put in here because it's cute. The birds that are in the story. So the white-tailed tropic bird has a black face with markings and a white body and a white tail. It's just a beautiful bird against a blue sky. Because I went to the Galapagos, which is where I got the idea for the blue-footed booby, because it's so cute. And we saw some cute little babies too. And so I thought it would be fun to write a story about them. And then in the story, of course, we saw that Seymour's sister is talking to him about the future vision goggles. And this is an idea that if kids can, it's sort of that same previewing idea. If they know what to do, they do it. And so if you can make it fun and experiential, let's put goggles on and let's see what's going on and what will happen if you do this, what will happen if you do this. So they can see that different things can happen based on, depending on what you do, because people will react differently depending on what you do. So it's just a fun way to do that. Plus it's a fine motor activity.
It also triggers one's imagination about how to problem solve.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if a real situation were happening in a child's life at home, for example, you could say, let's go get those future vision goggles that we made. Let's put them on and think about how we could solve this right now. And because kids don't usually want to sit and talk about it, but if you can make it fun and more engaging by putting goggles on, what do you see? So with one of my other books, Mission Control, A Big Feelings Adventure, I have a whole toolkit of things like this, little toys that kids can use, binoculars, like look down the road a little bit where you can't see. What are you noticing that you're not seeing until it's right here in front of you? Look ahead a little bit. Those kinds of tools can help, and it's more fun for them. And this one was just something similar, but it could just be a little drawing activity. You can do this. What would it look like in your vision future vision goggles? What would the scene look like from your perspective? So again, an opportunity to talk about things. What would happen if you did this? How could you do it differently? Are there other ideas? And then this one, because this happened in the story, a lot of schools rule is no touching kids at all and no hugging for sure. And so I'm not necessarily trying to promote that, but I do know that's the rules for many kids in their schools. And so if a bird is not following the rules and another kid really wants to follow the rules, then this reaction can happen. The last picture there, where it feels uncomfortable. Oh, wait, that's not the right one. Sorry. There's the one. He hugs his friend without permission, but his friend pushes him away. And so that's a response. And then lots of times the kid who's hugging doesn't really understand why the other friend walked away and didn't like it. And so I'm trying to model a different scenario where kids can say, well, if I put on my future vision goggles and remember about Seymour and think and ask for permission and wait for a response, now we feel connected and we want to play. So the outcome is so different when a child can self-monitor and can remember to pause and think about what other birds, in this case, will like or not like, and respect if they say, no, I don't want a hug, or say, yes, I do, because there are a lot of kids with sensory sensitivities, for example, who don't want a hug, or just kids who don't want a hug. And so it's really important for kids to learn that boundary from other kids because it extends beyond a hug at school. And then these are some games that help kids learn to just take a pause, to slow down, to stop and think. So it's just stopping ideas. And of course, it's games that are interactive with other kids, which makes everything more fun. But it is, how do you stop and what are the cues? Well, in these games, there's somebody else telling you the cue, or there's music to tell you the cue, or there's a game that you're following the rules of to follow the cue, but sometimes helping them control their impulses and listen, like listen for someone to say red light, or listen for someone to say freeze, or like, oh, don't put that there, that it's my turn, please wait, those kinds of things. It's listening and looking too. Developing self-control skills. And then this is just a fun picture, like, again, fine motor activity, but a visual perceptual activity too, of cutting apart Seymour and then putting back together again, like a puzzle, and gluing them on. So this is, something that families can put up on their refrigerator and say, oh, what do you think Seymour would do? So trying to just make it playful and make it something that kids keep in the repertoire of things to think about when they're playing with other kids. And there's where if a child needs a little more help knowing how to put the pieces back together again, they can put it like a matching kind of puzzle. So they could put it straight on there too, or they could use the blank one. So that was what I wanted to share about the activities, but do you, Violet, have any more thoughts on the activities? What would it be like for you to do some of those things? Or what do you think other kids your age might like?
I think, from my opinion, that would be really fun to do all those activities. And also, I think my brother would like to do that too.
You could do them together and you could talk with your brother about the things that we're talking about today. And if he reached for the scissors and they were in your hand, you know what to say to him now. So I'm also trying to model through the stories what kids who have a little more practice, a little older, more skilled for whatever reason, to help other kids like you're doing, Violet, with your brother. And because then if you look at the story, it's not, I put in different characters, some who might get it quite upset if somebody does something like give a hug when you're not expecting it, have a big reaction and walk away, or they might have some of the birds are modeling, oh, when I wait in line, I can like maybe drum up a game for recess, or I can ask, do you want to come over to play at my house today? Or just have some interaction that is just fun. It makes everything go faster. If you have something to do, something to talk about when you're waiting in line, when you're playing a game, so it doesn't feel so hard to use self-control in those moments. Did you want to share anything else, Diane?
I guess I was thinking that there are times when Violet and her brother both misread each other, and then it can become a war. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 How did that work out for you, Violet?
Not very well.
It usually doesn't, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for all kids in different ways. And hard for grown-ups too. Like we're still learning too.
It's a challenge that never goes away, I
Never
think.
goes away.
It's part of being a human being. and having interactions with other human beings.
Yeah. And I think, I'm sure you've seen this as well, like in my social skills groups, I feel like kids find it much easier not to have those interactions because it's complicated. There's so much unwritten. There's so many unwritten rules, so many social cues to pick up on, so much beyond just what's right in front of you.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And then a lot of kids truly don't know how to play. Like, not only do they not know how to interact, but they don't even know, like, what do I do with this train track? It's not for taking apart, it's for putting together and driving a train. That's what most kids would expect to do with a train track, that a bunch of pieces, they would put it together, not try to rip it apart. But sometimes that's the play that some kids know to do, take things apart. And so it can be harder to know what to do, how to engage, find something that other kids are also interested in. It can be really hard. And so I think that sometimes all of this complicated, overwhelming information that's out there that so many kids are misinterpreting or not even noticing makes social interactions very difficult.
Well, and some kids, I think maybe we're all to some degree in the same place when we get started as a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think we are, but we're more in the same place. But some kids then can learn pretty quickly through experience, and others don't have the same ability to learn through experience. It just takes a lot longer, and they need some coaching, whereas the other kids can sometimes do it without coaching. They just vicariously learn it, or repetition, they learn it. But then the kids who aren't getting it look at the kids who get it, and then it becomes easier for those kids, and then they feel alone with it because they're isolated. They don't understand why it is the other kids are getting it and they're not.
Yeah, for sure they don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was easy for them, they'd be doing it the same as other kids.
Exactly. It's not that they don't want to.
For sure, they all want friends. They want to. Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
That's
trying to
what
do.
Seymour was learning, like,
Yeah.
wow, this actually helps me get friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's all from my message. And in the other series, other books in this series, like, this is what does help you get friends. And that requires a lot of flexibility, a lot of compromising, a lot of communication, a lot of paying attention what's going on, self-control. I mean, so much. Like, I didn't name 100th of it, what all is involved if you really take it apart. Yeah, it's complicated. So, and then, we look at other kids who find all of this easy, and we think, boy, look at that brain. It's just easy for them. And they're not learning all this. It just came naturally. And it's so amazing. And I always kind of liken it to the Olympians, I guess, the Olympic athletes, I guess I should say. And like, their bodies, like, how many people can do that? It's so amazing what they do and the practice that they put in, and the beauty of their movements. And I look at other kids and I think, wow, look how easy it is for them. Gross motor, fine motor, social, everything is just so easy. And it's like watching an orchestra because everything's coming together and playing at the same time, all in one, all together. And it's just beautiful, beautiful to watch. And so, that's, I know your goal when you were doing your assessments and working with kids, and my goal with my groups and my individual sessions is to get kids always getting closer and closer to that as they practice and learn and get that guidance. Takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. And help.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you both for being here to help out with this today. I really appreciate your input very much. And I hope that others will, if you will have a chance to look on the website also to see other books and other videos that I've done, because all of the books that I've written and have a video of me just talking about the value of the book, and also a video talking with other people about the value of the book and the little activities that follow. So it's fun. So a lot of value for people who are interested in learning a little bit more about how to support kids. So thank you again very much.
Well, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.